Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for day 2 at State of the Industry. This presentation is entitled Neuro Athletics, and it's powered by our friends at FITLIGHT. I'm joined today by our 2 guest speakers, Luisa Nicola, neuroscientist, and Rob Bao, Director of Sales at FITLIGHT. Guys, thank you for joining us. Welcome to the stage, and I'll let you guys take it from here.
Well, thank you very much, Keith, for the introduction, and obviously Sportech Keith for the opportunity for us to be here again. I have to say, we're very proud that FITLIGHT that we get to sponsor State of the Industry for the 2nd year in a row. And yeah, last year virtual conference was kind of the marker for us, the beginning of all the virtual expos, exhibit halls, and whatnot. Let's hope that next year State of the Industry is going to be again in person, and we're all very optimistic that will happen. So back to today, I'll give you guys a quick refresher about what FITLIGHT is and what we do in a second. But first, I'd like to introduce the reason why we're here today. Our brand ambassador, the founder of Neuro Athletics, and like I said, the reason why we're here today, Luisa Nicola.
Thanks, Rob. Hey, everybody. My name is Luisa Nicola. I am really excited to be here. Very excited to share some of the awesome things that we're doing. Just as a quick introduction into what I do, I am a clinical neuroscientist and neurophysiologist. So by trade, I use a specific type of neuroimaging. It's called an EEG, and we use that to assess all of our athletes in relation to behavior. So I am the founder of Neuro Athletics, which is a full-service sports neurology company. So we work one-on-one with elite athletes, and what we do is we test them. We're using specific biomarkers to test their performance, and once we test them, we then put them through a neuroathletic program, which can range from around 3 months to 6 months to 24 months. And today specifically, I'm going to be talking to you about not just the assessment that we do, but the middle of the assessment, how we really train our athletes using one of our neurotechs, which is FITLIGHT. So excited to be here. And just as Rob said, I'm one of the brand ambassadors, and I'm actually their resident neuroscientist. So Rob, over to you.
I'm actually a bit nervous. Well, thank you, obviously, Luisa, for being here and for doing this with us. But I'm a bit nervous because I know what you're going to talk about, and I know what you're going to show. And we've obviously, or I had the pleasure to go through your program not that long ago, actually here in Miami where I am. And I'm afraid that we're going to show some footage of that today. But nevertheless, I'm very excited. And let me give you guys first a quick refresher on what it is that FITLIGHT does and what we have in terms of products. So FITLIGHT, we specialize in producing and providing tools and custom solutions for coaches, athletes to quantify and gamify their training methods. What it is, it's an app and it's lights. And with the app, you can program the lights any way you want. And you can activate the lights with different settings such as color, auditory triggers, timeout, delay, patterns, repetitions, whatnot. And they can be deactivated by both impact and proximity. And that means that you can easily implement the lights in any training protocol that you already have if you want to quantify it. So once you deactivate a light, you get the data directly on your app and in your online dashboard. So you get immediate feedback that will tell you what you're doing, how you're doing. And that's why at FITLIGHT we say move, measure, motivate, because it's not always easy to motivate your athletes, especially in challenging times like these. So if you have lights that you can work with, then you can show your athlete immediately how they're performing. So first you move, then you measure with FITLIGHT, and the immediate feedback will motivate you to do it again tomorrow. All right, back to Luisa. So like I said, recently, I had the pleasure to go through your assessment by Neuro Athletics, your company. And we did it with the sport that I love to play the most, which is tennis.
Well, thank you so much, Rob. No need to be scared. I'm really excited to share this. So before we start, I'm going to try my hardest to get about more of an understanding of not just how we use the FITLIGHT training system, but I would love everybody to understand this beautiful thing that we all have, and it's called the nervous system. You have it, Rob, I have it, and I think it provides the basis of not just what neuroathletics is, but I think it provides the basis of really understanding the neurotech space. And neurotech, we know, we're part of it with FITLIGHT, but neurotech encompasses anything that can really, help you or help an athlete enhance or I would say activate the nervous system. So before we start, just to give a preface of how we're really going to understand what we're talking about here, I wanted to point everybody to this thing. It's called the stress continuum, if you will. Now, I think perhaps one of the most important things that our nervous system does is it controls our level of what we call arousal, which is our level of alertness, versus our level of calmness. And this is really extremely important because our level of alertness and our level of calmness determine what we can sense, how we can think, what we can perceive, and how we tend to control our inner being. And this is so important when it comes to an athletic perspective. If we date back 20 years ago, and we look at sports psychology, we were just starting to learn 20, 30, 50 years ago, we're starting to learn about our level of arousal. We all remember that bell curve that we learned back in high school about how to have an athlete in their most aroused state. Now, because of neurotechnology that's been enhanced and obviously neuroimaging, such as the one I'm using, the EEG, we now open the doors to really understanding our level of alertness and our level of calmness. Now, our central nervous system is the brain and spinal cord, and then our peripheral nervous system is all the nerves and the fibers that connect the spinal cord and the brain to our outside world, and now allows us to throw a ball, kick a ball, catch, perceive something coming. So we've got that as the basis. Now, if you look at this arousal continuum, we've got the green state, then we've got the red state. If you can imagine this as a seesaw, if you will, we're trying to stay right in the middle at the alert and calm phase. We don't want to be, if we're too calm, we're in a coma or we're in a deep sleep. If we're too panicked, if we're too aroused, we're in that panic and very stressed state. So you can imagine, we don't want our athletes or even ourselves to be in any of those states because we need to be thinking clearly and intelligently. So I really wanted to provide that to first start off with. So let's go on to the next slide and we'll get this going. So what am I talking about when I'm talking about the neurological workup of any athlete? So at neuroathletics, we're looking at three things, and this is what we did with Rob. We're looking at attention, we're looking at information processing speed, and we're looking at the visual system. We believe at neuroathletics that these are the three biomarkers that can shape any athlete. And I say that in utmost respect for science and for all of the experience. We've done over 1,500 brain scans with our athletes over the last 10 years. And these are the three biomarkers that we believe shape an athlete. So let's start, Rob.
Oh boy, really?
So this is one of the images, guys, that we used to assess Rob. So we put on the cap, the EEG, it was a 1020 system. So there were 36 leads sitting on his head, and we were able to detect neurologically his attention capacity. If you can see this, we used event-related potentials. So we got snapshots of his brain waves while he was actually performing a task. And this is really important because with athletes, they need to maintain attention whilst performing tasks. If you can see where he was sitting, he was sitting not too far off task, but his speed neurologically was 456 milliseconds. Now, the reason why we tested this on Rob is because Rob came to us and said, Louisa, I'm a tennis player, and you mentioned this, Rob. You said, I want to work on my attention capacity, right?
Well, yes, you're right. And it's more, especially in these days where there's a lot of screen time, everybody's sitting behind a computer more than before. I always play tennis at the end of the day. So sometimes I was stressed. Sometimes I had a lot of video calls. Sometimes I was just doing emails all day. And then I noticed that once I got onto courts, it was harder to focus, attention span was tired, things like that. Yep.
Yeah. Well, just before we move on to show you a bit more about, how we train attention. So when we first capture this, guys, we capture the data of our athletes. Now, if just as another neuroscience educational tool, I would say, when we're looking at attention, we have this thing at the front of our head, okay? It's called the prefrontal cortex. It lives just here, and it's our neural real estate. And it's discussed for so many aspects of neuroscience, and you've probably heard about it, but this is the area that is responsible for decision-making, executive function, attention, planning. It's also, along with a lot of these things that it's responsible for, it also holds a lot of real estate, and therefore it can actually diminish our attention capacity. This is why sometimes Rob noted during his sessions, he said, Louisa, why can I maintain attention in the first half of the day, and then at around 3 p.m., 4 p.m., my mind just feels like it's, lacking? And that's well and true, because this neural real estate, the front of our head, can really be, if we don't train it properly, basically the way we train our legs and our arms, it can fatigue. And that's what we're going to show you now. I took Rob through, we can go to the next slide, Rob, and we can show them an exercise that we do using the FITLIGHT. Now, this is an exercise that we introduced with Rob in the first month of his training program. So if you can see here, Rob is reacting to the lights. They're all different colors, and he actually has to maintain hitting the ball. So you've got hand-eye coordination happening here, but you've also got to hit the FITLIGHTs on cue. Now, I'll just let you watch this before I talk. So what Rob was doing there is he is now holding, we've held up, we've got another FITLIGHT athlete there, holding up a sheet of paper, and there was numbers 1 to 50, and they're all spread out all over the place. So we're getting Rob to hit the numbers in chronological order from 1 to 50 in a given time frame. Rob, how hard was this for you to do, these exercises?
Hard, I have to admit, but great to do. It's very challenging. But obviously that's the fun part about it. And I noticed that once I got stuck on one digit or one number that I couldn't find, I got distracted and I was completely off.
Yeah, that's going to happen. And guys, I just want to relay this back to why we're actually doing it. In order for Rob or any athlete, Major League Soccer, NFL, NBA, in order to maintain attention on the court, on the field, you really have to be training it in your day-to-day trainings. So what I got Rob to do with the FITLIGHT, because obviously he has his own FITLIGHT training system, is I actually set up a protocol for him to be using for just 10 minutes a day, so he can actually create those neural circuits that are responsible for attention. So that's the first biomarker. Then we're going to go on to the visual system, which is my favorite system, and I think it's completely undertrained and underutilized when it comes to elite athleticism. So the three things that we're really looking at when it comes to our visual system is dynamic visual acuity, decreasing reaction time, and improving hand-eye coordination. The reason why I love the vision and the visual system is because I think that in 90% of the time when it comes to high-level athletes and even, youth athletes, I think it's very underutilized. And if we really understand what the eyes are, not just the vertical, the straightforward vision, but also our peripheral vision, if we learn how to train those, I think it can really enhance your performance. We'll go to the next slide, Rob, and then I'll get you to talk about your vision. So we tested Rob's vision, and we saw from a biomarker perspective. So we actually tested this with the EEG because your eyes are actually connected to your brain. They're the only pieces of the brain that has access to the outside world, which makes this system so beautiful. So what we found was that his vision wasn't 100%. And just as a little fun fact, when we're looking at tennis players or basketball or baseball players, the most well-known visual acuity test is 28. We all think that it's 20/20, but it's not. And so we tested Rob's vision. Now, Rob, you had something really interesting to say about this aspect of the system.
Well, it's what I had difficulty with, and that's why I also wanted to do this assessment with you, is especially depth perception. Once obviously it's very important to react to a serve, but also when somebody plays a ball, it was hard for me to see if it was going to be a long ball or a short ball, and if I had to run up to the net. And with our system with FITLIGHT, you can have visual triggers, visual stimuli to work with, and that's why I wanted to go through your program to see if we could improve that for me, which it obviously did.
Yeah, and the great thing is when we're looking at the bulk of the training program, before I was actually introduced to FITLIGHT, I was introduced to FITLIGHT 3 years ago, I think 4 years ago. I was using printed out dots. So you can imagine the excitement I had when I realized, wow, there is a piece of neurotech that involves the sensors that has different colored flashing lights that I can just use on my iPad or on a, back then it was there was no app back then. So it was so interesting to me. So I think we've got a video as well on how we train the vision. So let's have a look at this. This is not Rob. This is another one of our athletes. Look what he's doing. He's using the FITLIGHT training system where he's got a number of different lights flashing. He's hitting them with his left hand. It's going really fast, but he's getting a trainer to throw the ball at the wall. So he's catching the ball. Okay, so we're already taking up some neural real estate there. He's catching the ball, but he's also reacting to the light in his peripheral. So I'm standing a bit further away now. He's accessing this area of his periphery. And the great thing is when we test any athlete, we're able to say, oh, wow, the 45-degree angle on the left side on your left eye is working better than what you are on your right side. And we found that with Rob as well. So one of the things that we're not showing you in here is one of his exercises is I'm getting him to close his right eye and he's reacting to the FITLIGHT on his left hand. So we're getting him to train that aspect of his left visual system and left visual field. Okay, then the third one is, and Rob will tell you about how he feels with information processing, but this is the third biomarker that we use. So before we talk about this, Rob, how do you feel you are with this aspect? You're in the red zone there.
Sorry, I'm in the red zone now. Oh, sorry. Yeah. No, it's like I said before. If I would play tennis in the morning, it would be better because there's a lot of things to deal with during a game. Obviously, with your opponent, the way the ball's coming, who knows, maybe sounds around you. So it was hard for me to focus and to keep that focus at the same time.
Yeah. So what you can see here is we tested Rob. He's not sitting within the normative aspect and range of what an elite athlete would be sitting at. Now, I think, I don't categorize what's the most important biomarker, but when you're looking at information processing speed, it's generally hypothesized that it involves 3 stages in our nervous system and in our brain. The first stage of information processing is encoding. That is pretty much collecting and representing information, okay? Then we've got storage. That's holding that information. Then there's retrieval, which is obtaining the information that we need. And then also there's a control process that determines how and when information will flow through the system. And this is all happening in the matter of less than 450 milliseconds. So we also tested his power. So we're really able to understand how an athlete catches a ball, and in the mindset of less than half a second, we're really able to say, this is what's happening in your brain at this speed, and we can get it faster. And just to shed a bit more light on this aspect, when we're looking at information processing, we're generally looking at 3 aspects. And this is where the sensory memory lives. This is where short-term memory lives. And this is where long-term memory lives. So let's have a look at one of the exercises we do for information processing speed. I'll explain what this is in a sec, guys.
This is so confronting, Louisa.
You did good with this. So I'll just stop it there for a moment, just so I can tell everybody what you're doing. So guys, Rob, this was his task. He had 3 lights. The lights were all different colors. One was red, one was yellow, one was purple. He was standing at this line. When the light flashes, I said to him, this was the task I gave him. When the red light flashes, you need to hit the red light with your left hand. When the yellow light flashes, I don't want you to move. And when the purple light flashes, was it the purple light, the third light? I want you to hit it with your right hand. So you can imagine the amount of information that's going through his head. I set the speed to a really short speed. It was less than 0.5 of a second. So he had to not just react to the stimulus. He not had to just hit the ball and run back to the line. There was so much happening in a small given time, involving all of the senses that we just spoke about, also involving short-term memory, long-term memory. So his ability to react was really, it showed me that, okay, great, we have some work to do. So also with the FITLIGHT training system, we're able to hold all of his information, and I was able to say, Rob just did set 1. He wasn't able to achieve the 0.5 seconds. So let's go into 1 second. So how did you feel with this one, Rob?
Well, I don't know if the people saw what happened in the video, but I think it was the second light that I had to deactivate. You really saw me walk up or run up to a light first, and then it's like, oh, but wait, was this left hand, right hand? Did I have to bounce twice? And some other times I bounced the ball first and then went up to the light. So it got easier while doing the exercise, but in the beginning I was stressed out.
Exactly. And I always tell my athletes that these exercises we're doing shouldn't take away from the training that you're doing. I would never say that. It is a supplement, and it's something that I think everybody should be doing. And we should be training this using the FITLIGHT system, using other modalities for only 10 minutes a day, because even Rob said, Louisa, I was fatigued within 10 minutes, mentally fatigued. And that's all it takes. That fatigue ability really grows. It's just like, when you fatigue your biceps, they get bigger, they get stronger because we're growing them. That new muscle fibers need to build together to create a stronger bicep. It's the same thing with your brain. Once you get over that stressful state, that fatigue, you become stronger. So when he goes back on the court, he'll be less fatigued.
And this is what I liked about the day that we did the assessment. You're able to really make it very clear about what we're doing and why it is what we're doing. And after, I have to say, I was able to focus better. It was almost like the contrast was bigger. I was able to see the lines better. Everything was more clear. I was energized, and also obviously because it's just fun to do.
Yeah. Let's go to the next slide, and you can kick this one off, Rob, if you like.
Well, what I liked is that obviously the exercise that you guys saw just now is with the 3 different colors. What you did is that you created your own folder in our app where you have your neuroathletics program, and you have all these different exercises. And then in the end, we did the 3-color decision-making drill. And this is what it would look like if you would program that on our app. And on the right side, you see your online dashboard where you can get immediate feedback to analyze your data, to see how you're doing, compared to last week, last year, and obviously to set goals and see how far you are in reaching those goals. And more importantly, to motivate you to do it again tomorrow.
Yeah, so I am very privileged and very excited that I have within the app that is available now to everybody who, if you get the FITLIGHT system, you now download the app. You can download it obviously without the FITLIGHT, but I have my own folder in there. So now all of these exercises I was just doing with Rob are going to become available to anybody who has the app. And I think the most beautiful thing about it is, and what I would love to see in the future, is people like versing each other and putting down, hey, I just did 0.5 on this neuroathletic training protocol. So I think that's an amazing feature as well to add in.
Well, thank you very much, Louisa, for obviously being here and for doing this with us. We're very excited that we can call you our brand ambassador. And it speaks for itself that I think you showed the audience why we love to have you as a brand ambassador. Anybody, if they have any questions for us, for Louisa, for her program, for us, for FITLIGHT, please feel free to visit our booth here at the Virtual Expo. And I have to say, me playing tennis, please join at, I think it's 2:50 today. Ivan Lendl, one of the greatest tennis players in history, will talk here at Sport Techie, State of the Industry. And I think he's going to talk about how technology was back then and how it is right now and how much that evolved over time.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. And like Rob said, I will also be available for any questions.
Thank you very much.